يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله. هيا على الصلاة، هيا على الصلاة، هيا على الفلاح، هيا على الفلاح، هيا على خير الأمل، هيا على خير الأمل. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله، لا إله إلا الله. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
Assalamu alaikum. The Mahdi Youth Society is in need of your help through donations. Please check out cig.ca and click on Donate Now. Upon clicking Donate Now, scroll down and click on canadahelps.org. Through this, you can address your funding to the Muharram Fund. Enter your donation amount and click Submit so that your donations can go a long way in helping us continue to broadcast our programs for Muharram and for future events. Thank you for your time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
تیری وفاؤں کی عجب غازی کہانی بچپن پہ سکینہ کے فدا کر دی جوانی ہے تیری وفاؤں کی عجب غازی کہانی تو فاطمہ زہرا کی دعاؤں کا صلہ ہے عباس تیرا نام ہی زینب کی ردا ہے اب تک تیرا ممنون ہے اسلام کا بانی ہے تیری وفاؤں کی عجب غازی کہانی زہرا کی لہد کانپی حیدر نے نجف چھوڑا رو رو کے یہ شاہ بولے میری کمر کو بھی توڑا جب خون میں تر دیکھی غازی کی پیشانی ہے تیری وفاؤں کی عجب غازی کہانی رونے کے لیے مولا کیا بات یہ کم ہے اتنا تجھے معصوموں کی ہے پیاس کا غم ہے دریا پہ کیا قبضہ پیا پھر بھی نہ پانی ہے تیری وفاؤں کی عجب غازی کہانی اب کون بچائے گا میرے سر کی ردا غازی کس طرح سے اب جاؤں گی میں شام بتا غازی سر پیٹ کے کہتی تھی یہ زہرا ثانی ہے تیری وفاؤں کی عجب غازی کہانی بچپن پہ سکینہ کے فدا کر دی جوانی ہے تیری وفاؤں کی عجب غازی کہانی
یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین غیبت میں قتل ہو گیا مظلوم بے وطن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن غربت میں قتل ہو گیا مظلوم بے وطن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن آئی نیاس دو گھڑی پردیس کی فضا کن با شہید ہو گیا میں گھر اجڑ گیا پردیس دیس غیر کا اپنا وطن وطن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن ایک دل کے داغ میں نے 72 اٹھا لیے کچھ داغ میں نے قلب کے اندر چھپا لیے چھپتے نہیں چھپانے سے داغ حسن حسن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن دیکھا ہے بابا میں نے جو منظر بتاؤں کیا نیزوں پہ تھا رکھا ہوا سر ہر شہید کا گھوڑوں کے دوڑنے سے ٹکڑے بدن بدن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن قاسم کی لاش لائے تھے دامن میں شاہدی صحرے سے بے نیاز تھی نوشاہ کی جبیں ایک شب بھی رہ نہ پائی نہ جس کی دلہن دلہن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن بابا حسن سے تابا حسین شہید تک بابا امیر شام سے دورے یزید تک لوٹا ہے اہل شام نے بابا چمن چمن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن میں بھائی بھائی کہتی تھی لاشا بہن بہن
Assalamu alaikum. The Mahdi Youth Society is in need of your help through donations. Please check out CIG.ca and click on Donate Now. Upon clicking Donate Now, scroll down and click on CanadaHelps.org. Through this, you can address your funding to the Muharram Fund. Enter your donation amount and click Submit so that your donations can go a long way in helping us continue to broadcast our programs for Muharram and for future events. Thank you for your time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ya Hujjatullah shakwana ilayk Ya Hujjatullah shakwana ilayk Adrikna adrikna labbaik ya labbaik Adrikna adrikna labbaik ya labbaik Ya Imam Asr hum bedar hai آپ کی نصرت کو ہم تیار ہے ہے نشان اپنا تو غازی کا علم.
یا مہدی
ماں نے گھوٹی میں دیا ہے شے کا غم.
یا مہدی
لوریوں میں کربلا سنتے ہیں ہم. لوریوں میں کربلا سنتے ہیں ہم. وقت سے آگے جو ہے رفتار ہے. ادرکنا ادرکنا لبیک یا لبیک یا حجت اللہ شکوانا الیک. یا حجت اللہ شکوانا الیک. ادرکنا ادرکنا لبیک
یا لبیک
ادرکنا ادرکنا لبیک یا لبیک. یا امام عصر ہم بیدار ہے. آپ کی نصرت کو ہم تیار ہے. میرے مولا آپ پر لاکھوں سلام.
یا مہدی
آپ کی نصرت کو حاضر ہے غلام.
یا مہدی
ہم سپاہی آپ کے ہیں یا امام. ہم سپاہی آپ کے ہیں یا امام. آج کے میں ہے ہم مختار ہے. ادرکنا ادرکنا لبیک یا لبیک یا حجت اللہ شکوانا الیک.
یا
حجت اللہ شکوانا الیک. ادرکنا ادرکنا لبیک یا لبیک. یا امام عصر ہم بیدار ہے. آپ کی نصرت کو ہم تیار ہے. بیردہ پھپھیاں ہے اور بازار شام.
یا مہدی
تشن لب زنجیر میں جکڑا امام.
یا مہدی
ہے قمر اب بھی سکینہ تشن گام. ہے قمر اب بھی سکینہ تشن گام. امتحان میں عابد بیمار ہے. ادرکنا ادرکنا لبیک یا لبیک یا حجت اللہ شکوانا الیک. یا حجت اللہ شکوانا الیک. ادرکنا ادرکنا لبیک یا لبیک. ادرکنا ادرکنا لبیک یا لبیک. یا امام عصر ہم بیدار ہے. آپ کی نصرت کو ہم تیار ہے.
اے میرے بھائی حسین، اے میرے بھائی حسین، قدم قدم پہ مجھے بھائی یاد آؤ گے. اے میرے بھائی حسین، اے میرے بھائی حسین، قدم قدم پہ مجھے بھائی یاد آؤ گے. سحر کو نانا کا وعدہ، سحر کو نانا کا وعدہ جو تم نبھاؤ گے. اے میرے بھائی حسین، اے میرے بھائی حسین، قدم قدم پہ مجھے بھائی یاد آؤ گے. میری نگاہ میں بچپن کی ساری یادیں ہیں. کہیں تھی نانا نے جو یاد وہ بھی باتیں ہیں. سحر سے پہلے چراغوں کو تم بجھاؤ گے. اے میرے بھائی حسین، اے میرے بھائی حسین، قدم قدم پہ مجھے بھائی یاد آؤ گے. کبھی سواری تمہاری سوار تم بھائی تے. اما زہرا کے دل کا قرار تم بھائی. اور آج خون میں اپنے ہی تم نہاؤ گے. اے میرے بھائی حسین، اے میرے بھائی حسین، याद आओगे तुम्हारा।
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء. يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك العصام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقاب. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك واستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائحي ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك. ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترته، وكم من فادح من البلاء أقلته، وكم من عثار وقيته، وكم من مكروه دفعته، وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرته. اللهم عظم بلائي وأفرط بي سوء حالي، وقصرت بي أعمالي، وقادت بي أغلالي، وحبسني عن نفعي بعد أملي، وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها، ونفسي بجنايتها ومطالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك ألا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي، ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري، ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي، ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي، وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا، وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك؟ أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اعتبعت فيه هوى نفسي، ولم أهترس فيه من تزيين عدوي، فغرني بما أهوى وأسعده على ذلك القضاء، فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك، وخالفت بعض أوامرك، فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك، ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك، وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي، معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا، مستغفرا منيبا، مقرا مذعنا معترفا، لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني، ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري، وإدخالك إياي في سعة رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري، وارحم شدة ضري، وفكني من شدي وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني، ورقة جلدي، ودقة عظمي. يا من بدا خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي، هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي. يا إلهي وسيدي وربي، أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك، وبعد من طوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك، ولهج به لساني من ذكرك، واعتقده ضميري من حبك، وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيت، أو تعبد من أدنيت، أو تشرد من آويت، أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمت. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي، أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا، وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا وبشكرك مادحا وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققا وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارح سعت إلى أوطان تعبدك طائعا وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنا ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثور يسير بقاء قصير مدة فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي فكيف لي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها أضج وأبكي لأليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته فلئن صيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك وهبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجاء عفوك فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأذجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج الآملين ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولأبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين ولأنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين يا غاية آمال العارفين يا غياث المستغيثين يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته وضاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته وهو يضج إليك ضجيج معمل لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يعمل فضلك ورحمتك أم كيف يهرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفه أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقه أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا ربه؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتتركه فيها؟ هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك، فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاحديك وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما. لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين، وأن تجلى ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما. أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل قبيح أسررته وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته أخفيته أو أظهرته وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي، وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم، وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت، وأن توفر حظي من كل خير أنزلت أو إحسان فضلت أو بر نشرت أو رزق بسطت أو ذنب تغفر أو خطأ تستر. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي، يا من بيده ناصيتي، يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورا وبخدمتك موصولا وأعمالي عندك مقبولا، حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي يا من عليه مؤولي، يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب قو على خدمتك جوارحي واشدد على العزيمة جوانحي، وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أصرح إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في البارزين واشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين واجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرده، ومن كادني فكده، واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك، وأقربهم منزلة منك، وأخصهم زلفة لديك، فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك. وجدني بجودك، وأطف علي بمجدك، واحفظني برحمتك، واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا، وقلبي بحبك متيما. ومن علي بحسن إجابتك، وأقلني أثرتي، واغفر زلتي، فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك، وأمرتهم بدعائك، وضمنت لهم الإجابة. فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي، وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي، فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي، وبلغني منايا، ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي، واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي. يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء، فإنك فعال لما تشاء. يا من اسمه دواء، وذكره شفاء، وطاعته غنى، ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء، وسلاحه البكاء. يا سابغ النعم، ويا دافع النقم، يا نور المستوحشين في الظلم، يا عالما لا يعلم، صل على محمد وآل محمد، وافعل بي ما أنت أهله. وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله، وسلم تسليما كثيرا.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم، إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم، تنزيل العزيز الرحيم، لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب، فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما كذبوا وآثارهم، وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون، إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب عليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة وأحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم عنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذكم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وزواجهم في ظلال على العرائق متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم نعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فعنا يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم
बाद हुसैन किसने कहा मैं यतीम हूँ बाद हुसैन किसने कहा मैं यतीम हूँ मक़तल से आ रही है सदा मैं यतीम हूँ باد حسین کس نے کہا میں یتیم ہوں، رو کر کہا سکینہ نے لاش حسین پر، رو کر کہا سکینہ نے لاش حسین پر، اب جا کے یہ یقین ہوا میں یتیم ہوں، باد حسین کس نے کہا میں یتیم ہوں، بولی سکینہ شمر سے کانوں پہ رکھ کے ہاتھ، بولی سکینہ شمر سے کانوں پہ رکھ کے ہاتھ، گوہر نہ چھین بہرے خدا میں یتیم ہوں، باد حسین کس نے کہا میں یتیم ہوں، میں اپنے آنسوؤں سے بجھا لوں گی اپنی پیاس، میں اپنے آنسوؤں سے بجھا لوں گی اپنی پیاس، دریا سے لوٹ آؤ چچا میں یتیم ہوں، باد حسین کس نے کہا میں یتیم ہوں، سر رکھ دیا سکینہ نے زینب کی گود میں، سر رکھ دیا سکینہ نے زینب کی گود میں، رکھنا پھوپھی خیال میرا میں یتیم ہوں، باد حسین کس نے کہا میں یتیم ہوں، مقتل سے سوئے شام یہ کہتی ہوئی چلی، مقتل سے سوئے شام یہ کہتی ہوئی چلی، بابا میرا شہید ہوا میں یتیم ہوں، باد حسین کس نے کہا میں یتیم ہوں۔ صلوات اللہم صلی علی
محمد وآل محمد۔
فاتحہ۔ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔ عابد کو جب یزید سے بابا کا سر ملا، سر کیا ملا کہ مرہم زخم جگر ملا، مدت کے بعد باپ کے سر سے پہ سر ملا ماہ سفر میں شام سے حکم سفر ملا ماہ سفر میں شام سے حکم سفر ملا دیکھا جو اہل بیت نے فرق جناب کو تاروں نے آ کے گھیر لیا ماہتاب کو تاروں نے آ کے گھیر لیا ماہتاب کو بہنوں نے باری باری لیا گود میں وہ سر زینب نے ہونٹ رکھ دیے بھائی کے ہونٹ پر دریا بہا کے اشکوں کے بولی وہ نوح اگر بھیا پھیری ہے آپ کی ہمشیر در بدر بھیا پھیری ہے آپ کی ہمشیر در بدر جس روز سے جدا ہوئی میں دم سے آپ کے نیزوں سے پشت زخمی ہے دل غم سے آپ کے نیزوں سے پشت زخمی ہے دل غم سے آپ کے بھیا تمہیں ہماری خبر بھی ہے یا نہیں بھیا ہمارے سر سے ردائیں اتار لی بھیا تمہاری بہنیں یہاں رسی میں بندھی بھیا تمہاری بیٹی کے یہاں سے لیاں لگی بھیا تمہاری بیٹی کے یہاں سے لیاں لگی خندہ ہمارے حال پہ اس دم شریر ہے بھیا ہمیں ایک رسی میں 12 اسیر ہیں بھیا ہمیں ایک رسی میں 12 اسیر ہیں عابد کو جب یزید سے صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Assalamu alaikum. The Mahdi Youth Society is in need of your help through donations. Please check out CIG.ca and click on Donate Now. Upon clicking Donate Now, scroll down and click on CanadaHelps.org. Through this, you can address your funding to the Muharram Fund. Enter your donation amount and click Submit so that your donations can go a long way in helping us continue to broadcast our programs for Muharram and for future events. Thank you for your time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماؤه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في العرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن مام الإنس والجان ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنني أنا الله لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدني وأقم الصلاة لذكري صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. The spiritual dimensions of Salat has been our ongoing topic. Tonight is lecture number 8. Our discussion for the past now 8 nights has been revolving around the internal dimensions of Salat. And before I get to our discussion tonight, I just want to recognize, and before I'm going to forget, I know I will on Saturday, my last Majlis possibly. I don't know how many of you are logging in before my actual speech, and you're able now to, listen to the Quran being recited or the Marsiya and Salams that are being recited before me or the Nohas after me. Hopefully you've noticed that the majority of the time, if not all the time, they are our young kids and our youth. Even this whole entire production and the whole entire organized live stream right now, the inner intro, the outro, everything has all come from our youth. And it's the word that I'll use, it's heartwarming for me. It's very, very motivating for me to see such young children reciting Surah Yasin beautifully every day, and today of course was no different. And it's a tribute to, of course, the work being done by the parents, but also it's also a tribute that it's also a point of recognition for the child himself as well, or herself, that they are willing now to put forth the effort in learning the words of Allah. Whether it right now is simply at the reading stage, later on, inshallah, they'll understand the Quran in terms of the messages, but it's inspiring for me to know. Sometimes we kind of feel like what's going to happen to our deen in the West, and is there a future, and what about the next generation? And then you come across an ashar like this, where you see beautiful Quran being recited. You see the etiquette and the adab of azadari done in salams and marsiyas and nohas done by our youth in a very beautiful and a very, very pious way, in a pure, sincere way. And then you realize that the deen will be fine. And so long as us as parents, we put forth the effort into our kids and the next generation, inshallah, the deen will grow with these children and these youth, right? And when we experience 8 nights like this, where this entire presentation now has been put together by the youth behind the scenes on the camera, then you realize that the deen, inshallah, is in good hands. Yes, there's always work to be done, but sometimes we have to stop and appreciate the fact that there is work already being done. There are parents right now who are working very hard to maintain that sense of God consciousness inside their children. So if you can join me in your respective homes, maybe you can recite this salawat I'm about to ask for nice and loud so all of you together can recite it. But please, for the tawfiq of these children and these youth who are reciting the Quran and the Marsiya and the Salams and these youth, let's recite one loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It's for their encouragement, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad wa ajil. May Allah bless them, and of course bless their parents as well, inshallah. Our discussion now has reached a point where now we have 3 nights left, assuming that my last speech is on Saturday. Of course, if the moon is sighted for Safar before that, then that's when my last speech will be. For right now, I am scheduled until Saturday night, inshallah. We have been attempting together now, you and I, to look at the various internal esoteric batini dimensions of Salat, looking at the text of Adab al-Salat of Imam Khomeini, rahmatullah alayh. In the muqaddamah, in the preliminary discussions, he talks about a number of things that we have discussed now across 8 nights. Everything, of course, from the personification of Salat in the hereafter, to the idea of Allah's rububiyat and our ubudiyat and what that means. We've talked about everything from istidraj to khushu' to tranquility to itminan khatir to shaitan last night. And all of that is an attempt, and I'll keep repeating myself, all of it is an attempt to somehow get more out of our salat than simply a checklist that, okay, salat is done now, I'm free for the day until Maghrib, until Zuhr, whatever the case may be, and let's move on. There has to be more, and there is more, of course. Our hadith that I've shared with you for the past 8 nights, we know this can be, it should be, an avenue of mi'raj, an avenue of ascension, an avenue of hijrat and migration for us towards Allah. And on this journey, this suluk that we are on, and us being the salik, the musafir, the traveler, we have to constantly move towards bettering every act of our worship, especially that of salat. And yesterday's discussion on the intrusion of shaitan inside of our salat, the last portion of last night's discussion was very crucial for us simply not to settle for the way that we've been performing our salats up until now. Okay. Ask yourself, I'll ask myself, a very important question. Can I add more to my salat and namaz? If the answer is yes, then let's stop for a moment and let's stop saying, yeah, I know I should be doing more, but no, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Those things happen a lot. Let's convert that into actual action. And like I said, we're not about big bang, right? We're not about the idea of go big or go home. No, right? The deen is very meticulous, very monotonous, very, very slow, inch by inch. Add one small thing, guys. Don't make this into a monumental event, right? Allah is not wowed by the bang of that one moment. Allah is wowed by consistency. Small things, but done with the presence of the heart and done to a fairly consistent level. So examples I gave last night, whether it's the fact that, I never stop to read tasbih after my namaz asabh, stop. Take the 41 seconds and recite tasbih, for example. I make it a point, let's say, for example, I have the ta'aqibat of Arabic memorized after Zuhr, after Maghrib, but I don't know exactly what I'm reciting. I have it memorized, but I don't know what the English translation is. Take a moment. There's now apps on your phone and read exactly what you're saying. Some of these ta'aqibat that we have memorized since we were young are powerful du'as left behind as treasures by the Ahlul Bayt for you and I to grow. Okay. In these next 3 nights, let me lay down what the 3 nights look like. Tonight we'll talk about bahajat inside of our salats. Okay, chapter 10 in the PDF. Those who are following the PDF, chapter 10. And then we'll talk about huzur qalb tomorrow. And then the last discussion will be on the controlling of our imagination during salats. The thoughts that go everywhere. Imam Khomeini addresses that inside of his book, inshallah, and that will complete our ashra. Now, of course, there's so much more to talk about. This was always meant to be a trigger, a catalyst for us to look a little bit deeper inside of salat and realize that this depth now can be seen inside of the deen. The deen is very, very deep. Okay? It's a matter of how deep we want to go, which acts as a nice segue to tonight's discussion. Now, tonight's discussion is a very positive, hope-filled discussion. What I mean by that is that so far what we've been discussing, now don't forget the initial talks about the I-ness inside of me, right? The ego, the egotism, for example, the importance of having the salat penetrate the physical realm and entering now, let's say, this immaterial soul, such that when I travel with that soul in the hereafter, the salat comes with me. A lot of times we might become disheartened by those discussions. I'll never get there, Syed. I'll never get there, Asad. That's the urafa, the awliya, And remember, let me remind you constantly, time and time again, how balanced of a writer Imam Khomeini is, how realistic he is. He wasn't an individual who lived his life on extremes. He never taught extreme Islam. He never lived and wrote about extreme Islam as well. Right? You would think that the father of one of the most successful revolutions of our time, right? There would be this certain image. And as much as the other media outlets tried to present this very stern image of him, a very extreme Islam that he presented, in reality, his deen was the most balanced. His approach was the most balanced. And why not? He would mirror, of course, the sunnah of the Ahlul Bayt. And the Ahlul Bayt were approachable, they were balanced in all of their affairs. And this chapter now shows us how balanced he is. Okay? Very few ulama write the way he wrote this one chapter, at least according to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, and it was placed beautifully in the middle, precisely in the middle of these discussions that are very, very heavy. You know, the khushu of Allah, right? Between his Jamal and Jalali aspects, tranquility of the soul. These are not easy discussions, right? Itminan khatir, sukunat qalb, all these things are not easy. And sometimes we become intimidated. It becomes daunting. Like, you know what? The fact that I do salat is enough. And then this chapter comes in. He talks about bahajjat in your salats. Now, what is there in the PDF is, vivacity and cheerfulness, but those aren't good terms in terms of translations. There is a deeper meaning that is to be captured that I'll do my best to capture tonight. He starts off by saying that if we wish to achieve any of these desired results in our salats, that it has to be done with a level of attentiveness, okay? Has to be done with the level of positivity, this energy you need to pray salat, to avoid being sluggish, to avoid standing up lazy. As I mentioned last night, the ahle kusal, the Quran talks about, right? And he says you do that by ensuring that you are able to read yourself very carefully. He uses examples that I'll use later on in the speech tonight, but initially he says that ideally what should be happening now, and again, like I said, the way Imam Khomeini writes is very beautiful. He gives us the ideal first. This is what it should look like. This is what you are aiming for. Now let's funnel down to the nitty-gritty details. Okay, like last night we talked about the idea of food for the soul, right? That's the purpose, right? Making sure you feed the soul what it can digest. Okay? And then, of course, the barriers to that is shaitan and, of course, the nafs amara. How do we handle that? We don't settle. We're suspicious. Why don't we ask ourselves for more, right? Everything else in our life we don't settle for, right? When I want a new house, I work hard for it. If I want a new watch, for example, I work hard for it. I want to upgrade my car, I'll go upgrade my car. But my salat has been the exact same salat as it was when I was 9 or 15 years old. Why, Baba? Let's upgrade the salat as well, right? If everything is being upgraded now, let's upgrade the salat, right? The difference is that when you have your phone, Apple forces that upgrade on you. It says it's time to upgrade into version 14 now that everyone's waiting for, iOS 14 right now, right? And sometimes the apps won't work. The apps won't work on your phone unless you upgrade into the newest operating system, right? God also wants us to upgrade our operating system, our fitra as well, right? The difference is that no one's going to come and remind us. No one's going to come and force that, I should say. It has to come from within, right? It has to come from within. And if I can take the example further and really be like, you're really pushing us about this example, after a while, our spiritual apps won't work. Sorry, I'm laughing at myself. Our spiritual apps after a while won't work after a while as well. And we'll end up thinking, I'm praying salat, I'm doing the fast, but I'm not elevating us in bhai. I'm pressing on the app, but it's not loading us in bhai. I'll stop, right? That's exactly, what I mean. We need to constantly upgrade. To upgrade now, we have to understand these concepts. Now, he says, ideally what should happen is, and he breaks down the human being into two different kingdoms, the physical kingdom and the internal kingdom. And if one thing you've gotten by now, hopefully, if not, I haven't done my job properly, is that the master of both kingdoms is the internal kingdom, correct? Okay? Salat is an inside-out process, okay? He says, ideally what should happen is that the physical kingdom, this is a very crucial point in the beginning of tonight's lecture, the physical kingdom, our limbs, our body parts, our eyes, our legs, our ears, our tongue, physical portions of us have to be controlled and mastered and guided by the internal kingdom. Makes sense, right? It's not the other way around. It's not that my limbs are hijacking my internal kingdom and saying, look, I'm walking towards a casino, even though you're screaming at me to don't go, it doesn't matter. I'm going to walk with my legs. I'm going to play blackjack with my hands. I'm going to grab my earnings with my other hand. I'm going to walk out with my legs. Okay? And my conscious, my zamir is saying haram, 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 haram. You're like, it doesn't matter. My physical body is stronger than that of my internal kingdom. Okay? That refers to an animal, a haywan. And the insan has it flipped. If the legs for a moment even points towards the casino, it's the internal kingdom that grabs the legs, says, where are you going? You want to go somewhere? Let's walk to the masjid. Let's walk to your mother's house. Let's walk, let's say here, for example. Okay? When the eyes begin to look at those you shouldn't be looking at, it's the soul that grabs the eyes and says, where are you looking? And so you lower your gaze. right? You turn off the music, you stop your ghibat. All these things only happen when the internal kingdom is hakim, okay? Is the governor, is the leader, is the ruler over your physical kingdom. You literally won't do anything physically unless, of course, without the idhn and the ijazat and the permission of the internal kingdom. You won't go to someone's place, you won't attend a wedding, you won't say certain things, you won't look at certain people, all of that. Physical now, meaning that now how it should be is the physical kingdom are nothing but tools to be used by the internal kingdom. That's ideal. That's ideal. Okay? He says, and Salat has a monumental role to play in this development. Okay? What is Salat after all? There's a physical dimension, there's a sahat, there's an outward, there's an exoteric, zahir, apparent form to Salat. This is not like fasting, right? Fasting doesn't have a physical form per se. If someone walks into your house and they're fasting, you have no idea that they're fasting. Unless they walk in, hey, I'm fasting, everybody. I'm fasting, guys. Thanks. Pray for me, I'm fasting. No one, I mean, not no one, very few people do that. And don't do that. It's annoying. But you know, Salat is a very physical act. Hajj is a very physical act, right? You can tell when you walk in, oh, he's praying namaz, okay? There's a physical act to it. That physical act is a great training ground to have your limbs now controlled by your internal kingdom, okay? So when your hands go up to say Allahu Akbar, for example, it's the soul that's sitting there and pulling the hands up, right? Okay. That's ideal. He says, now how does one achieve that? They achieve that by understanding their own selves. And the example I'll use throughout the night that he uses in the book is that of a doctor. Doctor comes in, checks your pulse, takes your blood, for example, examines yourself, for example. He says that every so often the doctor, besides checking up on the patient, should also check his own pulse, take out her own blood, do an x-ray of herself, for example, right? To not only spend your time knowing the person in front of you or the ghair, but also to understand us as well. We have mastered, my brothers and my sisters, we have mastered the process of fixing everybody else. Oh, we have advice. Allah, we have advice. She should do this. You should do that. You should do this. You should start this. Oh yes, you know her, them, this, that. Everyone is for everybody else. When it comes to me, nothing. I have no idea where to start. Yeah, I'm perfect. Or, you know, I know. I have 1,000 issues. I know, I get it. We're not talking about me right now. We're talking about you right now. Let's talk about you once in a while. The doctor, while he checks the pulse of the patient, should once in a while check the pulse of himself and herself as well. Okay, he says the salik, the musafir, the traveler on the path towards Allah, the saluk to Allah, should also understand when and where to push themselves on the path. Okay, what the example I'll give? Let's further this journey example, shall we? Okay, you're driving. Let's say, for example, you know, the example I give, you're driving across country to Vancouver. Okay, those who are with me locally in Toronto here online right now, you're driving, let's say, from Toronto. That's in the east of the country, all the way to the west point on the west coast to Vancouver. Okay, so you're driving along. Okay, it's a long drive, and there comes a moment around 11 o'clock at night. You know, the passenger is sleeping, the kids in the back are sleeping. Right, it's 11:30, 12, and now you know you start to kind of feel a little bit heavy, a little bit tired, right? And and you've been driving all day. You have two choices, right? You can power through and just kind of force yourself awake, even though your eyelids are really, really heavy, or you pull over, you grab a hotel, right? You rest for a little bit, and you go and you resume in the morning, knowing full well, if I push myself, I could be now costing the entire journey. I could be ruining the entire, if God forbid, right? Something happens where now, because you're trying to be superhero and you're trying to be, you know, you're trying to make good time and no, I'm not sleepy. It's 1 o'clock in the morning and we're trying to show the fact I can drive even longer. It's been already 12 hours, but it's okay. I can keep going. And so, you know, you're sitting there and no one is there to keep you awake. God forbid you steer off and you go down a ditch and now you're stuck. The car is broken down and you haven't even gotten out of Ontario yet. And the journey is over. All because at that moment, you weren't able to pick up the fact that, you know what, the best thing for me to do at that moment was pull over, take a break, take some rest, and resume in the morning when I'm fresh. The journey towards Allah, the suluk towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is no different. It's no difference. has to be done at your pace, has to be done within your capacity, has to be done understanding your zarfiyat and how much you can possibly take. Now, my fear in this discussion tonight is this, and the fear is for me, not all of you. I don't wish to insult anybody right now listening to me. The fear is that when you hear the fact of concepts that he talks about in this chapter, that, don't force yourself to worship. Don't put so much fishad and pressure on the nafs that it might actually be disheartened by worship, or has a distaste for worship, or enmity, God forbid, for worship, where you ask the nafs to do this and do that and do this and that, and before you know it, the nafs says, forget it, I'm out, and all our worship is gone. It's too hard, Asad bhai. I can't maintain that. Ye bhi padhna hai, wo bhi padhna hai, ye bhi padhna, read this, read that, read this. Wait a second now. Hold on one second. Right? But this does not mean that we become lazy, we become complacent, we become happy with the bare minimum. One thing I'm going to say to you a number of times tonight is be true to yourself. If there are moments where your soul and your heart and your qalb does not want you to do anything else more when it comes to worship, then don't do anything else more. But because there will come a time where the heart wants more. At that moment, give it whatever it wants. Of course, the bare minimum that we don't dip under is our wajibat. I'm not saying, pray Fajr on Mondays only, or pray Zuhr every Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Thursday, Friday, take a break. No, of course not. The wajibat are negotiable. It's those nawafil, mustahab acts that we do sometimes, that sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to finish, that we just end up, actually we end up pushing ourselves too far sometimes. And this is that chapter that Imam Khomeini now very beautifully lays out the fact, and he brings about very powerful tradition to talk about the fact that you have to know yourself, check your pulse now, read yourself. You have to manage your own heart. It's the same heart that fluctuates, right? The actual word qalb comes from fluctuation. Qalaba comes from fluctuation. Ya muqallib al-qulub, right? The fluctuator of hearts we call Allah. So this heart will always fluctuate into various states, right? It's unrealistic to uphold this high valley of Ashura, that awareness, that consciousness, that ma'rifat that we have of Allah, for example, on the nights of Qadr. First in Nizam Muharram, for example, the night of Nime Sha'ban, for example, I'm saying. Those are special nights, right? The hearts can't wait for those nights, right? We can't expect to maintain that high level. It's bound to dip and to drop. It's going to happen, and that's okay. I've mentioned already iqbal and idbar when it comes to our qalb, right? There are moments where our heart is running towards the musalla. There are moments where we have to drag our heart to the musalla, okay? Iqbal meaning forthcoming, idbar meaning retreating, okay? And we have to be able to identify when that happens, okay? Knowing full well that when the heart is ready, it wants more than the wajibat. And that's when nawafil, mustahab, ye dua, wo dua, ye tasbih, wo dua, tasbih, ye taqibat, everything you want, give it, it's ready. But when after your salat now, you feel a little bit tired, khaste, a little bit worn out, a little bit tired, then fold the musalla, put it away, close the Quran, put it away, and come back to it when it's ready. My teacher would always give me a very simple piece of advice. If you're reading the Quran, let's say, and you want to finish your juz, for example, right? And halfway between the juz, you start to check the pages. Oh, there's still 5 pages. Okay, all right. And you're just trying to get through the 5 pages. Because the moment that you check where the surah or the juz ends, close the book. Close the book, put it aside. Either go refresh yourself, have a glass of water, take a little break, have some grapes, for example, wash your face. I have no idea why grapes, but grapes. Wash your face, for example. If you want to resume. At that moment now, the nafs is trying to tell you something. Now, there's a fine balance between pushing yourself, okay, and putting pressure on yourself. And that's a case by case. And he understands that, Imam Khomeini does in this chapter, right? I don't wish to sit there and tell anyone that, look, I don't want to push myself. And sometimes we need to push ourselves, but not to the point, like I said, where you're falling over, you're keeling over, you're driving at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you have the entire journey at stake here. Okay? We have to sometimes check our own pulse. And always understand this is a process. It's a slow entry into the deen. Now, those of you who are following in the PDF, he brings about these beautiful traditions from the Ahlul Bayt. Okay, one that is marbut right now, this connection right now, this discussion right now on the qalb, is from our 11th Imam. Our 11th Imam says that when the heart is open, confide in it. When the heart is closed, bid it farewell. Oh, what a beautiful statement that is. When the heart is open, confide in that heart. When the qalb is in the state of iqbal, it's running towards the musalla. It wants more. That 4 rakat salatul zuhr wasn't enough. I don't want to leave the musalla. Then don't leave the musalla. There's so many things to recite. There's so many tools and treasures the Ahlul Bayt have left behind. After salat, this dua, this ziyarah, this taqibat, everything. At that moment, when the heart is open, confide in it. You know what that means to confide in somebody? When you have identified this person is trustworthy, you have all these secrets inside of you that you're just waiting for, to give to somebody, and you've identified this person now can be confided in. Ooh, every secret now. Ye below, wo below, ye below. I've been holding this in my heart for 10 years. Now, at that moment, the heart also says, look, I'm open now. Please, I want the dhikr of Allah. I want the ibadat. The heart wants, it's at that peak. Okay, it's at that peak. At that moment, give it whatever you want. The example I've given before, sometimes, your kids don't want to eat, right? MashaAllah, my kids are amazing eaters. Alhamdulillah, all 3 of them, MashaAllah, they never bug me when it comes to food. MashaAllah, they really are. They really, really are great, great, great eaters. Really, really, really. Hashtag sarcasm. But they really are good eaters. So there are moments where my young ones, my young one especially, Baba, I'm hungry. When he says it, I'm like, whoa, he's hungry. Khud mang raha hai khana. He's asking for itself. Put everything down, warm up whatever you have in the fridge. Give him everything, this tabarak, the case may be, and just shovel the brother with food. Because you know that won't last very long. Because there'll be moments now where 1 navala, 1 spoon of rice is, yeah, please open your mouth, please. That's going to happen. Okay? It's a silly example, I'm sorry, are like that. Sometimes they close. We have to identify by being our own physician to say, right now, this is enough for me. Okay, this is enough for me. And accept it, knowing full well that when that iqbal happens, I'm going to give it more. Now, when the heart is asking for more, we become lazy, then that oppression happens on the heart. Then that's a problem. But sometimes I see, I see individuals who make the deen so hard for themselves. It's commendable, no doubt. They're up all night reading this dua, reading that surah, reading this dua, reading that surah. When it comes time for the adhan of fajr, they have one eye open, quickly namaz parlo and jump into bed. I'm sorry, those 3 hours of worship before the adhan of fajr was great, but if it's gonna interfere in your wajibat, then I mean you have to now do hisab kitab and measure properly. Imam Ali says that when the nawafil now interferes with the wajibat, drop the nawafil. Right? The mustahab acts are made, should be done out of hub. The word mustahab is literally from hub. Should be out of the love for Allah. It's not a burden that we place upon ourselves. But sometimes, mashallah, some mu'mineen, they put so much pressure on themselves. I get phone calls, and the example I give all the time, phone calls I get, Maulana, I mashallah, bachpan se, whenever, since I'm a child, I've been reading Surah Rahman, Surah Mulk, and Surah Yasin before I go to bed every night. Mashallah. That's great. There are some nights where I get sleepy and I end up just falling asleep on the Quran. Is it okay if I don't read all 3 and go to sleep? I said, yes, please. It's not wajib on you. If you're sitting there sleeping on the Quran, God forbid, right? Because you're just trying to wake up and trying to get through Surah Mulk quickly. At that moment, please do yourself and the Quran a favor. Close the Quran. Put it aside. Get some rest. Your body is telling you, your heart is telling you, your soul is telling you, Asabah is telling you, go to sleep, Baba, soja, aram se soja. Wake up in the morning after Fajr when you're fresh, in the morning after breakfast, and finish your surahs. It's okay. It's okay. The Prophet says that Allah does not love the one who makes the deen harder than it should be on himself. Right? And this is where the balance of Imam Khomeini talks about. He brings about one more tradition. The Holy Prophet now says to Imam Ali, alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alayhi. He says, Ali, this deen is firm. This deen is strong. Enter in it slowly. Okay? Enter in it slowly. It's not like a train. If I don't get on now, I'll not. No. It's here. The deen's not going anywhere. It's strong. It's rooted firmly in this dunya right now. Okay? Enter the deen at your pace. Okay? At your pace. Again, I'll say it one more time, 3 more times. Don't look for loopholes. Be true to yourself. Okay, ask yourself, am I lazy even during those moments where I know the heart is screaming for more? I'm not ready to fold the musalla yet. Because the ulama now go on to explain, even Imam Khomeini now does ishara of this in the chapter. He says it's actually those moments of idbar, when the heart is retreating, that actually gives life to the moments of iqbal. Subhanallah. What a beautiful writer Imam Khomeini is. Beautiful writer. Those moments where we value, where we kind of, we go through our faraz and nashib, as they say, right? In Farsi, right? Ups and downs. It's the moments that you actually hit down that actually helps us go up a little bit, right? It's that moment that you pull over to the side, take a quick half an hour nap, recline in your chair, half an hour nap, you wake up and you're fresh, and now you thought, you know what, I'll drive 2 more hours, you actually drive 4 more hours, because that quick half an hour. But you had enough sha'ur, enough awareness inside of you, enough ma'arifat of yourself to know, you know what, let's not be hero, let's pull over, let's take a little bit of a break. Just take a moment, close the Quran a little bit, put it aside, rest the body, rest the eyes, maybe go do something else, for example, come back to it. Now, not only will be Mulk and Rahman and Yasin, but oh, Baba, you'll add Ma'idah on there, you'll add Baqarah on there. Why? Oh, I'm fresh, let's do this. We have to know when to check our pulse. Okay? When to check our pulse. This fishar, this pressure we put is not there. Imam Jafri Sadiq alayhi salatu wa salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. It's a hadith that I've quoted before in the first ashar, and I want to quote it because it's actually in the book itself. Those who are following the PDF, he says that in my youth, I used to worship Allah a lot. And the way that hadith makes it sound like, I used to always constantly be in the state of worship. And then my father, the 5th Imam, would tell him that, let me remind you, my son, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh, it's a beautiful hadith. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves somebody, when Allah makes somebody their beloved, they accept very little from them. He accepts very little from them. Sometimes I think we do it, over and over and over again, to the point where I don't think this one got accepted. I mean, I've literally seen people who pray Zuhr Asr with me, okay? So I'm leading Jamaat. It's happened to me twice in my lifetime, and I have to pull the person aside and say, look, this is not worship, this is shaitan, right? Reading behind me in Jamaat, we finish Zuhr, we finish Asr, everyone is done, and this person begins now. He stands right back up and he reads his Zuhr Asr again. He's telling me now, well, I had to read Zuhr Asr again. I go, why? What happened? That one didn't feel right. I don't think God accepted that one, so I just read it again. Okay? And it's happened twice to me. And while the person's niyat, of course, is very noble, I just want my salat to be accepted. What's happening is that there's a boo and a hint and a smell of shaitan there, where shaitan now has made it inside of our head almost as if, God only accepts those that are utterly perfect. And he wants an abundant amount from you. So the more you can give him, the better it is. So let's give it to him, whether your heart's into it, whether you are tired, whether your kids are asking, Baba, can you come play with me? Whether your wife is asking, come and have some tea with me. No, I gotta do. There are people who spend all day long on the musalla because they think that's what God wants. God wants kathrat. God wants abundant. God wants. And Imam Muhammad Bakr is telling his son, look, when Allah makes somebody his beloved, he accepts very little from them, accepts and expects very little from him. Such a beautiful concept. Such a beautiful concept. Think about it. Think about the people you love in your life. Your children, your spouse, for example. The tiny small things that they do out of love for no apparent reason. Bring you a glass of water, for example. Write you a note, for example. I don't know. On the way home, grabbed you some flowers. Right, albeit from a local store that wasn't very much. It's they're not 24 long stem red roses. Maybe a little small bouquet that was $6.99. On the way home, he pulled over, grabbed some flowers, no birthday, no anniversary, no mess up, no nothing, no reason, just for being you. Oh, right? $6.99, but oh, it's gold. It's good, right? I mean, she's ecstatic because the love was already there, and these acts of worship now add to that love. Imam Muhammad Bakr is telling his son, you don't need to do all that. Now, mind you, I'm not deterring anybody. Those who, mashallah, spend, with sincerity, those hours and hours of salat. Let's be understanding towards our own nafs. I remember my first year in the Hawza. Oh, I had beautiful teachers. I was first at a school that was called, ironically, Al-Mahdi, and I learned Farsi there, and then I went through 6 months of introductory courses. And that's really where I met these gems of teachers. They weren't just people who were teaching me Arabic grammar or history. They were father figures to me. They would give me life advice. I remember once very vividly, his name was Jafri. Hopefully he's still there, and may Allah prolong his life. He knew I was struggling with Arabic grammar. Arabic grammar was always difficult for me, okay? And he'd say, look, what are you doing in the evening? I go, it depends, He goes, 7 o'clock, I'm here in my office. Some students come for extra work here and there. Why don't you come by and we'll go through some extra things about, about Arabic grammar. I said, okay. So I remember one time, 7 o'clock in his office, he was there. We had a half an hour session, and then we talked for half an hour. I'll never forget that talk. He asked me where I'm from. He asked me about my background. He asked me where I'm from, Asli, in terms of my parents. What do you do in Canada? Blah, blah, blah. Are you here with your wife? When he found out that I was here with my family, the first thing he told me, and I'll never forget this advice, he said, don't put too much pressure on the nafs of your wife or your nafs either. I said, what do you mean, Ustad? He says, you're coming from the West. You're coming from Canada, right? You're used to a certain lifestyle, right? And now all of a sudden you've come here in Qom, which is relatively a village, right? And sometimes people come in Qom thinking, that's it. This is gone, no furniture, no TV, no internet, nothing, just water and bread and salt and namak and yogurt, that's it. We're going back to, wait a second, hold on 1 second. You lived 20 plus years on this path, now all of a sudden, it's not a switch going off, on and off, right? If you put too much pressure on, he's telling me now, too much pressure on your soul, then it's on your nafs, it's going to rebel against you. And you're going to leave Qom with a distaste for the deen inside of your mouth. Beautiful, practical, balanced, wise advice. He says, so if anyone tells you don't get a TV, for example, don't get internet, for example, going to this place for for vacation, for example, just doing it, please, it's all part of the pack. It's very important that you do that. Balance things out. Okay, the deen is a very vast deen that's not only found on the musalla. Anyways, my point is that we have to now learn to do, and that's what the concept of bahjat is, that when we are on the musalla, when our heart is at the state of iqbal, at the state of readiness for the deen, then there is this fullness, this completeness, this contentment, this energy that Imam Khomeini talks about in this book, that can't be compared to anything else. A lot of times, I remember somebody asked my ustad in one of our fiqh classes that, how do you know that your salat has been accepted? Huge question, of course, and of course has multiple answers, but very simple answer. He says, that feeling that one gets, we all get the feeling, right? A feeling after salat. Not every salat, certain times. There's moments that we end our sajda shukr, and as we're full in the musalla, there's just a sense of calmness inside of us, a sense of serenity, sukoon inside of our hearts. Okay? He goes, that lamha, that moment, the 2 minutes of sukoon is the announcement of the acceptance of your prayer. You won't get an email saying your prayer has been accepted, but that feeling is bahjat. That feeling is this energy, this positive energy. You feel like you traveled and then you came back. Okay? So my brothers and my sisters, I ask you humbly, this deen is a deen that is balanced. This deen is a deen that understands the capacity of the human being. It was never meant to be a difficult deen. It was always meant to be a very natural deen. one that's very much in tune with your feelings and your emotions and your states and your various avenues, your ups and downs, and takes into account everything. And the beauty of a worshipper, of a salik, of a musafir, of a traveler on this saluk towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to always check their own pulse and draw their own blood and pull over on the side and take a quick half an hour nap and then resume the journey. Okay? Allah does not wish any sort of hardship on you. He only wants ease for you. Okay? Provided, and I'll repeat myself one last time before Masahib, provided a couple of things. Number one, be true to yourself. Your heart is screaming for more and you ignore it, you're only lying to yourself. And in the grave and wherever there is accountability, we will be accountable for that moment. At that moment, there is no time for riyah or for, what will that person think, right? Whatever is demanding our time at that moment is secondary. The heart is primary. And secondly, it does not mean that we don't push ourselves. We do push ourselves. As I mentioned before, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, he says very openly that there are 3 levels of patience. There's sabr against ma'asiyah, against hardship. There's sabr against shaitan, fighting shaitan. There's also sabr in ibadat and worship. Okay, there's patience there. Fasting in the month of June, July, for example, in this Toronto, in any summer heat is not easy. Those who think, oh, I'm not hungry, I'm not thirsty, these are easy roses, they're lying. They're hard fasts, absolutely. Getting up, let's say at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, your eyes are burning, for example, you just slept 3 hours, you have a long day ahead of you. Waking up now and then splashing water on your face and just kind of, shocking yourself awake, that takes a lot of patience. Handing over 20% of your hard-earned savings takes some patience. Doing a Hajj, the entire epitome of Hajj is patience. All of that is patience. All of that is pushing yourself, absolutely. But we have to be so in tune with ourselves, with our internal kingdom, to know that now is the time right now that I just pull over and do it guilt-free, knowing full well this is a process, a monotonous journey. If I went 1 inch today, I can go 1.5 inches tomorrow. Okay. But this all or nothing idea is not where the deen is at all. Okay. Now tomorrow, inshallah, and Saturday, we'll look at these 2 closing discussions on the presence of the heart and, of course, the idea of controlling our imagination and our thoughts during Salat, where a lot of us struggle now. The moment that I say Allahu Akbar, 1,000 thoughts and never enter my mind all day long. For some reason, the moment my takbir ihram is said, all those thoughts come into mind. I have no idea why. We'll tackle that on Saturday as a closing discussion, inshallah. Right? And he discusses this beautifully inside of the book. Inside the tragedy of Karbala, there are groups of individuals that are discussed sometimes as groups. We group all the ashab together. We talk about ashab of Imam Hussein. The blowing of the candle on Shabi Ashur, right? The fact that Imam Hussein would himself announce that nobody had the ashab that I had. We combine the Bani Hashim together, the Janabi Ali Akbar, Janabi Qasim, Hazrat Abbas all together, right? We maybe combine the young children on the Muhammad and Qasims together into one group, one dhikr, one sort of discussion. One group that sometimes goes unnoticed, and I maybe not, that we don't talk about enough, I find, are the mothers of Karbala. The mothers of Karbala. Up until the day of Ashur, up until Asri Ashur, the mothers of Karbala, they played a role, no doubt, but their role substantially increased and became more fortified post Ashura. Very, very quickly, the fitrat of the mother is to always protect their child from pain, right? A child is sick, a child is not well. I'm sure somewhere in the heart of the hearts of the mother, they're asking Allah, Allah, give me the sickness, but don't make my baby sick. If the child is hungry, for example, the mother will eat the old basi food and she'll give the hot, fresh food to the child. Cold water, first the child will say, Mama, I'm thirsty, here you go. The sacrificial nature of a mother, of course, is well documented and should always be appreciated by the father and of course by the kids. The innate nature is to protect the child, protect the child, protect the child. But the mothers of Karbala were completely different than that. It's like they changed their fitrat from protecting their child to protecting Hussein. And if that means that I sacrifice my kids for Imam Hussein, then so be it. Have you ever heard of a mother preparing her kids for war? We have in our Maqatil books that Bibi Zainab is preparing Ona Muhammad, telling them that, make sure you go and make me proud. But the one mother I want to speak about tonight that has been with Bibi Zainab all throughout the entire process is Rabah. Just a few more moments of Masayib Iltimas Dua. The book said that on Shabi Ashur, Imam Hussein, now he would go from tent to tent to tent, making sure everybody's okay, everybody is comfortable. And in that one tent, he would hear the sound of crying. And he would say, and he would look inside the tent, and he would see that it's Rabab crying. Beside her is a 4-year-old Sakina, beside her is a 6-month-old Ali Asghar. Why are you crying, Rabab? Rabab would cry and say, Mawla, tomorrow is the day of Ashura. This is before the fairest of the Shuhada were even shared and announced. She said, everybody has someone to sacrifice. Everybody has a child to sacrifice. All I have is a 4-year-old Sakina and a 6-month-old Ali Asghar. She didn't realize sometimes that her sacrifice was the grandest, was the biggest. The same Rabah that would help Imam Hussein after Ali Asghar's arrow would go through one area of his neck and out the other. It's Rabah that would help Hussein bury their 6-month-old Ali Asghar. That same Rabah that when Imam Sajjad announces to the women that Yazid now has given us riha, he has given us freedom to leave the prison now, and all the qafla now is getting ready to leave Sham and go back towards Karbala. All the women are ready, everyone is ready. Bibi Zainab says, I don't see Rabab. Where is Rabab? Can somebody find Rabab? Rabab is there at the zindan of Bibi Sakina, at the qabr of Bibi Sakina, saying, Sakina, you used to ask me, Mama, these birds are going home. When will we go home? You used to ask your father, Asri Ashur Baba, why can't we go back to Medina? We're going back to Medina now. Rise up from your sleep, Sakina, and come with me back to Medina. The same Rabab that in the days of Arba'een, when the Qafla came back to Karbala and they would do their ziyat of their Shohada, when this Qafla now is ready to go back to Medina, Bibi said, Rabab, it's time to go. Rabab, it's time to go. My heart tells me that Rabab will look up to Zainab and say, where am I going back to? Who am I going back to? I came with my husband, Imam Hussein, my Ali Asghar, and my Sakina. I left my Sakina in Sham. I buried my Ali Asghar and my Hussein right here on the plains of Karbala. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept this qaleel ibadat, inshallah. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to give us that tawfiq, inshallah, to use our salat as a mi'raj towards you. We ask you, Allah, to weaken the hands of the enemies of humanity, to strengthen the mustaza'afin all of the world. And finally, one dua that we have on tonight being Shabi Jum'ah. Allah, please raise us, inshallah, make us worthy of the Imam of our time and his arrival. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum. Just a few announcements before Noha. Just a reminder, Maulana Asad Jafri will be speaking on the Mehdi Youth channel until the end of Muharram. That can possibly be tomorrow or the day after, depending on the moon sighting. The program tomorrow will begin at 8:20 p.m., starting with Quran or Hadith Qissa. Also a reminder to please follow us at Mehdi Youth Society on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And also, please donate. Having these messages have a cost associated with it. In order for us to keep providing you quality programs, we do need your help. For us, if you can help us by sponsoring our marhumin, you can do this by sending an e-transfer to treasurer@cig.ca. The cost for that is $200 as a minimum. Now, apart from that, if you can also just put your attention towards this next video.
Assalamu alaikum. The Mahdi Youth Society is in need of your help through donations. Please check out CIG.ca and click on Donate Now. Upon clicking Donate Now, scroll down and click on CanadaHelps.org. Through this, you can address your funding to the Muharram Fund. Enter your donation amount and click Submit so that your donations can go a long way in helping us continue to broadcast our programs for Muharram and for future events. Thank you for your time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So lastly, just a reminder, please subscribe to our channel and also hit the bell icon so you can be notified of our next live event. With that, we'll go to Noha.
जब तक है दौरे आसमान, जब तक है दौरे आसमान, सुन ले ये हर पीरो जवान, सुन ले ये हर पीरो जवान, आवाज पर शबीर की बढ़ता रहे ये कारवां, रुकने ना पाए ये कदम, ऊंचा रहे अपना अलम, ऊंचा रहे अपना अलम, हर कल्ब पर चाहते चलो, हर कल्ब पर चाहते चलो, दुनिया को बतलाते चलो, दुनिया को बतलाते चलो, एक एक महाज़े जुल्म की तस्वीर दिखलाते चलो, हर दिल में भर दो शेक गम, ऊंचा रहे अपना अलम, ऊंचा रहे अपना अलम, कब तक ना मानेगा कोई, कब तक ना मानेगा कोई, वो वक्त आएगा कभी, वो वक्त आएगा कभी, हर कल्ब पर छा जाएगा अपना हुसैन इब्ने अली, इस दर पे हर सर होगा खम, ऊंचा रहे अपना अलम, ऊंचा रहे अपना अलम, ये परचा में आबास है, ये परचा में आबास है, टूटे दिलों की आस है, टूटे दिलों की आस है, अब तक इसी पर चमतले जिंदा किसी की प्यास है, जिसने साहेला खो सितम, ऊंचा रहे अपना अलम, ऊंचा रहे अपना अलम, अब्बास है नाम वफा, अब्बास है नाम वफा, आगाज़ो अंजाम वफा, आगाज़ो अंजाम वफा, मुन मोड़ के दरिया से जो पीता रहा जा मैं वफा, हो तेरा है बाजू कलम, ऊंचा रहे अपना अलम, ऊंचा रहे अपना अलम, जब भी कोई मुश्किल पड़ी, जब भी कोई मुश्किल पड़ी, दुनिया ऐसी दर पर झुकी, दुनिया ऐसी दर पर झुकी, सीनों से बल का कर इधर उठी सदाए, या अली निकला उधर बातिल कदम, ऊंचा रहे अपना अलम, ऊंचा रहे अपना अलम, ऊंचा रहे अपना अलम.
Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. السلام عليك يا نبي الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. Please recite along with me. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، خصوصا سيدي ومولاي يا أبا الفضل العباس يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء. سلطان أبا الحسن علي بن موسى أيها الرضا، كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. الأمان 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 من فتن الزمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك، وجعلنا من أعوانك وأنصارك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Assalamu alaikum. The Mahdi Youth Society is in need of your help through donations. Please check out CIG.ca and click on Donate Now. Upon clicking Donate Now, scroll down and click on CanadaHelps.org. Through this, you can address your funding to the Muharram Fund. Enter your donation amount and click Submit so that your donations can go a long way in helping us continue to broadcast our programs for Muharram and for future events. Thank you for your time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.